Did you take all the studs?
No, I did not.
Oh, you got some studs over here?
I did. I left some for you.
Oh man, you're such a stud. Most of the time we are building these things on the weekends, right? The last thing you want to do is stop your project because you're missing one little stupid piece, right?
Exactly.
Welcome to Sam's Garage, presented by NH Oil Undercoating. First up, Sam and Julie elevate the performance of their Holley C6 Corvette with upgraded brakes. Then join Sam and Doug as they fine-tune the Nissan 240Z with a calibrated speedometer. Next, witness Sam dial up the sound as he installs a Valvetronic exhaust control system in his DeVille. Then finally, Sam performs a much-needed cooling system service on a Cadillac DTS. Today, Sam and Julie are upgrading the Holley C6 Corvette with new front brakes, featuring state-of-the-art Baer brake rotors and factory 6-pot calipers. With expertise and finesse, they're enhancing both performance and safety, ensuring this Corvette stops on a dime.
Julie and I are continuing on with our Holley C6 Corvette project. In the next couple of weeks, we're going to be upgrading the brakes because your car is only as fast as good as your brakes will stop it. Okay, so what we're going to do is we went to Baer and we got the errata speed rotors, but we got them for a Z06 or a Grand Sport. Because they got 6 piston calipers up front, so we went to eBay, we got calipers, and I'm going to have you do all the work.
It's going to look really good, and it's going to look really good when we get the new wheels on it.
Absolutely. We went to Miller Powder Coating and had the factory Grand Sport wheels powder coated and took away that chrome look. What we got here is the Baer errata speed 14-inch rotor that you would normally see on a Z06 or a Grand Sport. The cool thing is that this is a direct bolt-on for any C6 or C5. Now, most aftermarket big brakes, these vents, they're going to be cut straight up and down, not at an angle like you see here. This angle is so that when you're moving forward, the air will be pushed out by the rotor like a fan. And that's why this directional rotor is very important, that you put it on R and L just like it states. And then this guy is a 6-piston caliper from the Z06 Grand Sport. 3 of the 4 look good. Nice red powder coated finish from the factory. You're not going to get as durable as this. Then we have the stickers. I got new stickers to put on the fronts of them. You got the material to put on the back of your pads. This particular brake system takes 6 individual little pads per piston. Pretty cool setup.
So Sam, when rotors get all rusted looking, is there anything you can do for them?
No, the only thing you can do here is you can get a rotor with a coating because this area doesn't ever get affected by the brake pad or anything, so it's going to look like this forever unless you get a coated rotor. And this, no matter how much it rusts, it doesn't matter because the first time you hit the brakes, it knocks the rust off. On the bench, what I'm going to do is remove the brake hose. That way it allows the pistons to move freely. Then we're going to take a regular clamp, and what we're going to do is we're going to position it on the pistons, and we're going to spread the tool, pushing the 2 pistons in. And because I have an open here, it's not going to want to push in the 2 pistons on the other side because it's got an avenue of where the pressure can escape and bleed from. Got a brand new pad, simply goes in. Can see that the brake caliper is fully installed. You want to make sure that you install the left and right caliper on the proper side. You look for the bleeder valves, you want them facing up. And then what I did was I reused the factory brake hose. I just grinded down the end so it fits in the spot for this new caliper, and that works out fine. I don't have to go messing with the hard line. And then now that I have a 14-inch rotor and a much bigger caliper, you have to make sure to run an 18-inch wheel up front or you're not going to clear. You're going to have an 18-inch in the front and a 19-inch in the back. What we did was we went from a 2-piston caliper in the front to a 6-piston caliper.
So next we're gonna go get some high temp paint and cover up these calipers, make them look new again, and then we're gonna finish it off with new Corvette decals.
Julie and I got the front conversion already installed. We're not going to bleed the brakes yet because next week we're going to be doing the rears.
But at least the brake upgrade is huge.
Very.
I mean, I'm honestly surprised the factory brakes look like that. I mean, it's just such a big difference with this brake kit.
Those brakes have been race proven on the track. They do a great job. They'll last a very long time. They're going to be a little noisy because they're race brakes, so they're always going to squeak, but that's okay. That's what makes you cool.
Well, as long as they do their job, that's kind of most important.
Welcome back to Sam's Garage, presented by NH Oil Undercoating. Sam and Doug are gearing up for the ultimate challenge as they prep the Nissan 240Z for the great race. They'll be installing a new speedometer, ensuring precision and accuracy for the journey ahead. Join us as we witness the perfect blend of vintage charm and modern innovation unfold before your eyes.
Well, we got us the great race clock because he's getting older and he can't see. But with those big dials, you can see that from a distance.
Yeah, even if my glasses fall off, I can still see it.
And then what do you have in your hand?
This right here is a speedometer that we're going to calibrate. And so we're going to actually put up some sensors in the front tire, and then we'll actually calibrate this so it's absolutely perfect, so we know exactly what our speeds are. Because what we need on the great race, we need to know exact what our speed are and exact what our time is. Because time and speed is going to give us our precise distance, and that's what we have to have. That's why we've got a calibratable speedometer, so we know exactly, and a gigantic clock that I can read.
See from a distance.
Yeah. You can see the side of this speedometer, you can see the size of my hand. It's really good size. And so the question then becomes, where do we mount it? Here, this is where I'm going to hook up. This comes from the transducer. Just a little bit of ingenuity, it fits actually perfect. So this is great. As you're driving it, you can see exactly, just like your regular speedometer, it fits nicely in the hole. And this is just nothing to see how we're going to make it work. And we know with just a little bit of rags, now what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and get some foam, cut everything up. We lucked out on this one because it's not something we want to keep permanent in the car. So after we get done running the great race, we'll just be able to pull it out, pull everything back, and I'm right back to stock. The way that this operates is every time this magnet goes by this sensor right across here, what it does is it picks up the magnet and it puts a pulse. And that pulse will then be converted into what our speed is. So we're just counting the rotations of the tire. If we know what the outer circumference of the tire is, and we know what that distance is, so let's just say the outer circumference is 3 feet. I'm just grabbing a number. And then so every time the pulse gets picked up, we know we've moved 3 feet. So what we'll have to do is run all the calculations to make sure we're able to set the speedometer so we know exactly what our speed is. What I have to do is I've got to set two magnets exactly opposite from each other. I'm going to use this level because it's got straight edges, what I need, and I'm going to measure from one side to the level from the center, and I'll measure from the other side to the center. Then when I do that, I'll have it in the center position. And then once it's in the center position, I can put a mark, and then set my weights. And then we're going to have to build an L bracket. I also need to know what my offset is, so from where this rim is to where the tire bolts up to the hub.
This is going to go on the strut. I'll probably tack weld it or just use a radiator clamp to keep it in place. And then this is going to go towards the wheel. The backing plate's going to be right here, and the magnet's going to go across it like this.
We've got to mark the wheel, and then we're going to take the car and make it move one rotation of the wheel, and then we'll mark it on the ground where it is and where the rotation, then we'll measure our distance. Then we'll go 5 rotations, measure our lengths, and then we're going to calibrate the speedo with our distance that we measured, and we'll calibrate it on the very back. It's got some detents that you turn, then everything should be calibrated within inches, because that's the type of accuracy we're going to need on a great race.
Got a measurement of 74 7/8. Doug did the math, multiplied it by 5. We got our number, 3744, which we got the dip switches back here. We dialed it in, 3744, and in theory, this should be calibrated. So what we're going to do next is kind of just set it in the car, use our phone speedometer, and make sure it's calibrated.
I could even mount it to my chest if I want. I could put it up, it'd be hard to see, so maybe but the Velcro works great.
He'll be the new age Flavor Flav. Last week, Bobby and I got the short block all done. This week, we're gonna make this thing into a long block. We went to Summit Racing. As you can see, we got everything there. And then we're gonna top everything off with Michigan Motorsports coils. And we're not gonna use the Gwatney Performance heads this time because you did a set of heads for us.
That's right, I had a full set done for you. Made sure to do the right thing for you. New springs, full valve job, cut and blended, beaded up the head, made sure it was nice and perfect for you.
Gwatney Performance will make you a nice set of ported deal in case you want to do run NA or boost. They'll be cool. What we did here is we put one stud in place along with our dowel pins, of course, but the one stud's gonna keep the head from falling off of it. It'll also double as a guide. We're gonna put a little bit of the 0.1 lube on the threads that are going inside the block, just a little bit.
And the torque spec on these is going to a nominal 70 foot-pounds in 3 steps.
So with the help of Bobby Bueller Racing Engines, we got a complete long block here. Everything on the inside is fully forged and from Summit Racing, cam kit and all. Everything on the outside to complete this engine is gonna be from Michigan Motorsports. I wanna thank you again, Bobby, for doing another great job and coming down here and helping me out.
Anytime, man, anytime you need me, I'll be glad to come down.
Sounds good, thank you.
You got it, let's do it.
Welcome back to more Sam's Garage, presented by NHOU. Get ready to experience the roar of power as Sam Adavi unveils his latest upgrade, a brand new Valvetronic exhaust system installed on his iconic 1967 Cadillac Deville. With precision engineering and attention to detail, Sam's taking luxury performance to the next level.
You know, it's not often my Cadillac is in the garage, but when it is, it's usually getting an upgrade. When I built this thing, I dumped the exhaust right in front of the axle and it was way too loud, had too much drone. So I installed an entire new exhaust system, but it made it too quiet. So now I want some of that sound back. I went to Valvetronic Design, got me a pair of mufflers, had the guys at my muffler shop install them. Now I'm gonna install the controller kit and see how it's gonna sound once they're open. Hopefully it'll sound like it did before I made it quiet. So let's talk about what comes in the Valvetronic Design kit. We have all the vacuum line you need, whether it's going to be a single or a dual muffler setup. We have a cool keychain. We have a very nice heavy-duty remote. Looks like the transformer or something. Very cool, heavy. I like that. And then we have our power cord. Now, this box, which is the control box, has to be inside the cab. It cannot be out in the weather. So this is gonna go in my trunk. And if you guys have an SUV, most SUVs in the past 20 years have a cigarette lighter adapter in the trunk, so you can just hook up to it and go. If not, you can cut that off. There's a power and ground wire in there. Put it to switched ignition, not a constant. And then we have the antenna. We also have a T-fitting. Now the T-fitting, if you're using only one muffler, you just simply take the cap off and put it onto your T-fitting and use an in and an out for one. Or if you have two mufflers, you have an in and two outs to each muffler. That's what comes in the box. Now, what I'm gonna do on my Cadillac, I'm gonna install this in the rear. I'm gonna run a wire from switch power to the back. That way I need minimal vacuum lines and minimal power wire, and I should be good to go. Actually, now that I think about it, this wire is long enough for me to be able to just use this, run it to the front of the vehicle, go into my switch power and ground. I should be good to go. So the reason why we have a remote control and an antenna on the box is because Valvetronic Design, you can open up your muffler and close it standing outside the car, which is very cool. As it's running at a car show, pretty impressive. So that's why we have a little antenna. That's why it's important to put it on, face it up, that way it'll receive the signal. So now I've put on some double-sided tape. Luckily, I have a nice spot right on top of my battery. It's flat. I'm gonna put it this way so that the items go towards the front of the car. I want to find me a hole or make a hole to run these two items outside and out to the front. This is going to be my 12-volt switch power going to the fuse block in the front, and then this is going to be the vacuum line going to the mufflers. So what I did with the Valvetronic Design's control box was really a little compressor. Since it is only going to do it when the engine's running, change the sound, I went ahead and went to my fuel pump wire. The relay that controls the fuel pump has plenty of power to run that little box as well. It doesn't take a lot of amperage. So that is done, it makes it easier for me. And then with the vacuum lines, I found a couple of clips, put the vacuum lines up on top, ran them. This guy's up here, the drive shaft's not gonna touch it, should be good, and we're ready to go. I don't wanna put any holes at the bottom of the car. Well, I feel like I totally achieved my goal. It's quiet still, but when I wanted to hear the sound, all I gotta do is hit the button. Everything sounds good like it did before I made it quiet. And due to the construction of it, it's gonna last a long time. Those cutouts you see out there have little hardware that don't work very well, but these guys are vacuum operated, high quality construction. Now all I gotta do is install my door handles. See, they're powder coated black. They're gonna look really good.
Welcome back to Sam's Garage, presented by NHOU. Sam dives into the heart of a Cadillac DTS, performing a coolant system service on its Northstar engine. With meticulous care and expertise, he ensures optimal performance and longevity for this luxury vehicle. Join us as we witness automotive maintenance at its finest.
We got us the infamous Cadillac DTS, otherwise known as the Deville, in the shop. Now these things have a bad reputation because similar to the Ford 6-liter diesels, they're known for pulling the head bolts and the head gaskets fail. And the only reason that happens is because of operator error, really. It's lack of maintenance. If you guys were to catch these things before they ever overheated, or while you're driving and something happens and you catch it before the gauge ever overheats it, then you won't have a problem with the head bolts pulling out. This is for you technicians. When these come to the shop and they have a coolant, a lot of people misdiagnose them because they forget about a very big part that's on this car that has coolant running through it that also leaks. So we're going to show you that. I'm going to show you how to fix this. That way you guys can go find these cars out there today for minimal money, put some love into it, make it yours. When these things come in, they're going to have a coolant leak most likely. The water pump is very accessible. It's right here in the front. The thermostat is right next to it. Usually when there's coolant leaking, you'll see white residue staying from it, or you'll just see it dripping. So you want to do is take a pressure tester, put it to the coolant system, and pressurize it and see exactly where it's coming from. What most people don't realize is that this housing that goes across on top of the transmission is attached to both heads. The throttle body, the EGR valve, the water pump, everything is on this guy. And there are 4 gaskets that introduce the housing to the engine block on the head and on the block itself. Those are what actually leaks. So if a car comes in like this and gets a cooling system service done and it's got 100,000 miles on it, you don't want to just change the water pump and the thermostat. You want to change the entire housing because it's going to leak. That way you'll have fixed all the coolant leaks and you won't have an overheating issue. As long as the car does not overheat and does not overheat for a long period of time, then you're not going to have a problem with the head bolts pulling out or anything like that. In 2006-07, later model DTSs, they fixed the engine problem when they supercharged them. I've noticed a design change. The water pump on these Cadillacs used to live inside that housing, and you would need a tool like this. You go in, you twist it, you pull out the water pump, the housing gets left untouched, the pulley's on the other side, you're good to go. Well, now they've made this water pump bolt in through the front of the housing, which means you have to remove that guy. So if you're going to remove that guy, go ahead and replace the gaskets, because that's what's leaking. So like the water pump's been replaced, thermostat's been replaced, but when they did that, they reused these gaskets, and that's what's leaking. All you guys out there, if you're going to do a water pump on this thing and you're going to remove that gasket, snake the 6 of these back in. Considering that water pump was replaced, because I can tell it's been replaced, all the rubbers come apart on both sides of it, and you have to get the thermostat out of the way to put the water pump in. So when you guys are doing this job, don't skip. Replace everything. Do yourself and your customer a favor by making sure you're doing it correctly. What you saw was me moving that pinch clamp over so I can get to the hardware. Make sure you guys move it back to where it's been living, or there's a better chance of it leaking if you're going to reuse the pinch clamp. The last thing you want is a comeback in this case, because this is not an easy job. It calls for about 5 hours. All right, guys, you just saw me. I did not have to remove the tire on that one. The water pump housing calls for 4.5 hours. Be careful, you technicians, when you're pricing out this job. This later water pump in the all data system only calls for an hour, but it's not, it's wrong. So make sure you double check what year the Cadillac you have when you're quoting your customers. There's gonna be 5.4 hours worth of work on the valve cover gaskets. I need to do those while you guys are watching the closing credits along with the motor mount.
And that's a wrap for another exhilarating episode of Sam's Garage. Today, Sam Adavi and his team have showcased their dedication to automotive excellence, tackling a diverse array of projects. From upgrading the brakes on the Holley C6 Corvette to fine-tuning the Nissan 240Z with a calibrated speedometer, every moment has been filled with precision and passion. Let's not forget Sam's commitment to luxury as he enhances his DeVille with a new Valvetronic exhaust control system.